If you're a mid-career woman managing a team, carrying responsibility that you don't actually own, and quietly wondering how much longer you can keep doing this, I see you because I was you. I spent years leading a global communications team, creating visibility strategies, developing executive messaging, navigating corporate politics, managing personalities, all the while walking an extremely thin tightrope between being seen as assertive and being labeled as aggressive. I was doing all of that from 9 to 5 and trying to build something on my own on the side from 5 to 9. And here's what nobody tells you when you're in the thick of it: there's a much greater good behind all of the frustration, anxiety, fatigue, overwhelm, and burnout that you might be experiencing. And that's when I had to start thinking about things a little bit differently. I had to start telling myself that my job wasn't just paying me, it was preparing me. But you can't see that clearly when you're feeling drained, broken, angry, and just wondering if you're the problem. So, in this video, I'm going to show you how to reframe what you're experiencing right now, not as failure, but as preparation. Because everything that you're managing, everything that you're navigating, everything that you're holding together while nobody else is noticing, that's not wasted. That, my friend, is curriculum. But before I jump into it, allow me to introduce myself. Hey friend, my name is Quinn, and I am on a mission to help women in midlife create more freedom, ownership, and opportunity for themselves by turning their existing skills and experience into smart, purpose-driven income streams. So let's talk about the part that nobody wants to admit out loud. For me, I was making more money than I ever had in my life. And that's the case for many women at this stage of life. Good benefits, good title, good optics. And that check hitting your account twice a month, that predictability, listen, it had a chokehold on me. Golden handcuffs are real, especially when you're the breadwinner or you may be part of a two-income household with very real responsibilities. If you are, then you know that you don't get to just leap when there are mortgages and tuitions and aging parents and life happening all at once for you. So you stay. You carry the load, you manage the chaos, you tell yourself that stability matters more than fulfillment. Until one day, that math, it just stops mathing. The salary that used to feel like security starts feeling like a cage. And the role that used to energize you, it starts to drain you. And the company that said they valued you, they're asking for more while offering a whole lot less. More travel, more responsibility, more hours. And on the flip side, you're getting less support, less recognition, and less consideration for the fact that you have a whole behind life outside of that building. And here is the kicker. You start to wonder, am I the drama? If you're being too difficult, if you're not grateful enough. And here is what I finally figured out: it wasn't me, and it is not you either. There was a season where things started changing at my job. Small things at first, meetings I wasn't looped into anymore, decisions being made without my input, my scope expanding, but my support shrinking. I raised concerns a lot. And, they were acknowledged, but they were not addressed. There's a difference. Then that's when something started to click for me. This was not about my performance because that had always been stellar. That had always been good. I could look at my performance reviews and see that every year, year after year, 16 years of great performance reviews. But this was about the system. I was and I continue to be a full time caregiver for my adult daughter who has special needs. And my husband, just like me, also works full time. And even at our highest salaries combined, outsourcing the level of support that we needed to take care of our daughter, it still was not financially possible. And yet, the expectations at work, they kept coming and they kept increasing. More travel, more visibility. Quinn, we need for you to be more flexible, which really meant to be available at their beck and call. I was like, the higher up the ladder that I'm going, the less control it felt like I had over my own life, over my own comings and going. And I remember thinking, you know, how is this supposed to work, Lord? I mean, not in a defeated way, but in a genuinely curious way, because the structure that they were asking me to operate within was not designed for someone with a life that I had. It was designed for someone who either had no caregiving responsibilities or they had the financial means to completely outsource them. And I had neither one of those. So I had to stop internalizing the problem as my own personal failure because it wasn't. And I had to start looking at what other options I actually had because I had lots of them. I didn't realize it at the time, but I had lots of them. And it was so odd around this period of time. All of this turmoil was going on. There was like a whirlwind of things. When I say life was lifing, life was lifing. So it was really odd to me that during this time, I felt this immense sense of calm just wash over me. I mean, I did not panic when all of this was taking place. I did not, quit in some dramatic scene where I was knocking things off the desk and cussing everybody out as I left the building. I did not blow up my life. Instead, what I did was I checked the policy. Now, I know that that sounds super boring for some of you. It sounds unsexy. It sounds undramatic. But when I checked the policy, it changed everything for me. Because what I found out was I qualified for short term leave. And I qualified for short term leave at 100% of my salary. Checking into whether I could take my leave, it went against everything that I felt about myself. I was strong, I could do it, I was resilient. And so I had to get over that hump of feeling like checking into something that could help me did not mean that I was broken. It did not mean that I was a failure, because the situation that I was in, where I was managing high pressure role while also caregiving full time, it had a real effect on my physical and my mental health. And that was a legitimate reason to sort of step back. If you do not have your health, you do not have anything. If I don't have my health, I can't take care of my daughter adequately. So again, me checking into what was going to help me restore both physically, mentally, it was not a failure. So I took the leave, and I took it with no level of guilt. I took the leave because it was mine and because I needed to think. I needed to assess. I needed to get some distance from all of the noise that was going on in my world at that time. That allowed me to put some protection around myself, to protect my peace and just stay away from all of these constant demands coming my way. And once I was able to do that, it gave me clarity that I was not able to access while I was in survival mode. When you feel like you got to put up your dukes and fight for something, you're not thinking clearly. And so being able to step back and step out of the situation where it felt like every day I was going into a fight, it gave me an immense level of clarity, because here is what I ultimately realized. When you are no longer making decisions from exhaustion, fear, or desperation, you start seeing the truth. And the truth was that I had been operating like my job was my only option, but it wasn't. What I believe now that I didn't believe back then is that your work will not speak for itself. I mean, I used to think that if I just worked hard enough, if I delivered excellent results consistently, and if I stayed professional, people would see my value. But that is not how this works. You have to be clear, you have to be strategic, and you have to articulate your value without apologizing for it. And everything that I learned while managing that corporate chaos, managing up, managing across, managing personalities and politics and competing priorities, that was not wasted time. That was my training. So, that visibility strategy that I talked about, I learned how to position people and ideas so that they get noticed. That executive messaging that I wrote, I learned how to distill complex information into clear, compelling narratives. That stakeholder management, I learned how to navigate resistance, build coalitions, and influence without having actual authority. And then crisis communication, I learned how to stay calm under pressure and lead through uncertainty. So every frustrating meeting, every difficult conversation, every impossible deadline, it was all preparing me to run my own business, even though I didn't see it like that at that time. So, while I was still working that corporate job, while I was still managing the team, the travel, the expectations, I started building something on the side. And I wasn't thinking of it at the time as an escape plan, it was an experiment for me. The Second Act Summit started as an idea while I was in grad school. Oh, yeah, I was in grad school too. So, that was an extra level of complexity in my life at that time. And it really was a question that came to mind as I was doing all of my grad work. What if there was a space where women like me, in the middle of their careers, at the busiest time of our lives, what if there was a space where midlife women could come together and learn how to turn their experiences into income? Because if you haven't heard it, there is a statistic that says that women between the ages of 40 and 65, you'll need at least $2 million to retire comfortably. And that really made me start to wonder, because nobody's teaching us this, nobody's talking about this, nobody's telling us a roadmap, or nobody's giving us a blueprint for how to do this. I felt like I didn't have any answers to some of the questions that kept popping up in my brain at that time. But I did have proximity to the problem because I was living inside of the problem. So I used the skills that I already had, and I applied the visibility strategy that I'd been teaching to executives to my own messaging. I use the stakeholder management skills to start building out partnerships of my own. And I use the project management skills to start planning and then execute an event. And you know what happened? It actually worked. Not because I had some sort of special gift, but because I stopped waiting to be fully and completely ready and started testing what I already knew. And that's when I realized that being at this stage of life, it is not the end game for your earning power. This is the moment that you finally start to realize that you can do more with what you know. You're not starting from scratch. You are starting from decades of skills, wisdom, and experience that people will pay for if you know how to package it correctly. So, if you're in this season right now where your job feels heavy, your future feels unclear, or you're wondering what comes next for you, here's what I want you to do. Number one, stop personalizing structural issues, meaning stop taking on all of that baggage because it does not belong to you. Stop carrying other people's baggage. If the system is not designed to support women with caregiving responsibilities or whatever you may be going through right now, that is not your issue. That is not your personal failure. That, my friend, is a design flaw with the system. The second thing is you need to study your job instead of resenting your job. And what do I mean by that? I mean, if it's not working for you, then it means that it's working on you. So, what are you learning at your job? What skill set are you building as a result of that job? What problems are you solving that you could solve differently in your own business as it relates to what you have learned on this job? So, you have to start looking at things differently and study it from a different perspective. The third thing that I want you to do, I think I put up two fingers, but it's actually three fingers. Three fingers. But the third thing I want you to do is get in that policy. Get in the policy before you start to make any emotional decisions. Don't make decisions from an emotional place. Check what benefits you're entitled to. You never know, because this is something that we don't do a lot as corporate women. We certainly check our 401k and we're looking at our, other big health benefits, but you need to dive into the policy and check what you're entitled to. Is it short-term leave? It might be, long-term leave. You might get additional PTO because of the number of years that you've been on the job. And of course, there are EAP services and resources that may be at your disposal, like healthcare, mental counseling, and those types of things. It's not like they're giving it to you like it's some sort of prize or something. Those are your benefits. You've earned that. Time is the most valuable thing that you can buy yourself right now. So see if the policy can give that to you. The fourth thing is start naming your value clearly and say it out loud. Practice articulating what you do, who you serve, and what results you create. Start manifesting that thing. Don't start talking in corporate jargon or how you have been taught to speak. Use plain language and tell people, make it plain. Make it plain. And you start to tell people what you do in a way that makes them say, oh, I need that. Oh, you're talking directly to me. The fifth thing is build something small before you build something big. You don't need to launch a full scale business tomorrow. Start with one offer, one workshop, one conversation. Test it, refine it, learn from it. Small bets teach you what works without risking everything. If you take nothing else away from this video today, I want you to take this. Your job may not be your forever, but it can be your training ground. Everything you're managing right now, the chaos, the politics, the pressure, it's not breaking you, it's building you. And when you're ready to turn what you already know into something that's yours, I'm here for you. You can book a Your Next Move session with me where we sit down to map out exactly what your exit ramp could look like. I'll leave a link in the description. Or you can join us inside More Life and Midlife, where we help women do exactly what we're talking about in this video, where we're going to build income streams from your experience without actually having to blow your entire life up. You'll find a link in the description to that as well. So if this video resonated with you, make sure you hit the like button, share it with someone else you may know who could use this help, and most importantly, make sure you subscribe. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.